Welcome back. It is still News Up. We are diving straight into our very next conversation on the show this morning, which borders on the creative economy and the potentials. Now, report has it that the creative economy stands as the second largest producer of employment in Nigeria, providing about 4.2 million jobs in recent times. Now, it's been projected that the potentials of the economy in terms of contribution to GDP stands at about over 100 million dollars by 2030. On the show today, let's assess that potential as I'm being joined right about now by my guest Abraham Onoja, who is a policy development expert. He joins me virtually this morning. So good to have you on the show, Abraham.
Thank you so much for having me this morning. It's my pleasure to share more light and insight on this very important topic.
Yes, it is really very important. I mean, when you say a report actually does say that it is the second largest, job employer in Nigeria. 4.2 million jobs this sector had produced in recent times. When we look at proposed contribution to GDP, extremely very massive. Help me understand what we are not getting right about the creative economy in Nigeria. Help me, Abraham.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like by saying that Nigeria's creative economy holds significant promise, right? Driven by its rich cultural heritage, obviously youthful population and increasing access to obviously digital platform. As one of the largest economies in Africa, Nigeria has a wealth of creative talent and a thriving entertainment industry. However, despite these advantages, right, the country faces several challenges that hinder the full potential of its creative sector. And then just below, I'll just highlight some few of those points. One of them is in talking about the potentials of Nigeria's creative economy, I would like to first start by talking about the entertainment and music, right? Nigeria's music industry, particularly Afrobeat, has witnessed phenomenal growth, where artists obviously like Davido, Burna Boy, Wizkid, and Tems, amongst others, have achieved both local and international success, right? Winning global awards and collaborating with international artists. This has obviously given us massive streams on platforms like obviously Spotify, Apple Music, showcasing the vast potentials of Nigeria's music industry. Let's even discuss this from a more critical standpoint, market size. According to the IFPI Global Music Report, the African music market is growing and Nigeria is the largest contributor, with its music being listened to across Europe, America, amongst a host of other places. Let's look at also the digital platforms. Platforms such as YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, amongst others, have provided Nigerian artists with global exposure, democratizing access to international audiences. Let's also look at film industry, Nollywood particularly. Nigeria's Nollywood is one of the largest film industries globally, producing over 2,500 films annually, as reported by the National Bureau of Statistics, where Nollywood's influence extends beyond just Nigeria or Africa, right, with films increasingly available on international streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime, amongst a host of others. Let's then look at this film industry from a global impact. Nigeria's film like obviously everybody have heard of the likes of Wedding Party, Lionheart, amongst others that have gained international acclaim. Lionheart, for instance, was even shortlisted as Nigeria's official entry for the 2020 Academy Awards for Best International Feature Film. Right? Look at this from its revenue generation. Nollywood, for instance, is estimated to contribute over about $3 billion annually to Nigeria's economy. Right? The industry also provides employment to thousands of people, including actors, directors, producers, and even technicians. Thirdly, so that I don't waste a lot of the time, let's look at the fashion industry, where Nigeria's fashion industry is another significant sector with vast potential. Nigeria's designer, like for instance, Diola, Maya Tafo, amongst a host of others, have established international reputations, showcasing the country's unique fashion aesthetics that blend both traditional African fabrics with modern designs and all of that. Obviously, we can talk about the global recognition, which is a lot, looking at the video game development, amongst a host of others. But now back to the question where you spoke about challenges facing Nigeria's creative economy. I would like to start by saying infrastructure deficit is one. While Nigeria's creative sector shows immense promise, there are still significant infrastructure challenges such as unreliable electricity, inadequate internet access, poor road network, which impedes the growth of the sector, because creatives often face difficulties accessing the tools and resources needed to enhance their work. To dive a bit deeper into it, we're also looking at limited access to capital, privacy issues, talent drain, which is one that almost every sector is dealing with, because another challenge facing Nigeria's creative economy is the migration of talented creatives to more developed markets, particularly in the entertainment and tech sectors, where many Nigerian artists, filmmakers, particularly, just not to mention names, and designers have moved to other countries, UK, US, Canada, in search of other opportunities, leading to a brain drain. Then we're also looking at global talent mobility, right? As Nigerian talent seek global exposure, the country loses some of its best creative minds to international markets, reducing the local creative economies' growth potential. So yeah, those are some of its challenges. Obviously, there should be some policy recommendations and all of that. But let me pause here for now. So these are just some of the challenges that I'd like to speak on.
I'm happy you began the conversation by mentioning a few successes that we've recorded in recent times. When you talked about the likes of Burna Boy, these are all global artists as we speak, Davido and the rest of them. The challenges, yes, are there, but then there are some people that have been able to break through those challenges to be where they are today. I'm a lot more concerned about why we don't have structures that can capture the potentials that these sector really holds, or get the gains of this sector well captured in the bigger economy. Because yes, we know that Burna Boy is worth billions of dollars, same as Davido, but how is that trickled down into the real Nigerian economy? These are some of the concerns that many are asking. So that brings me to concerns around the policies that forms or that protects or that guides the creative economy in Nigeria. What do you see?
Okay, from a policy point of view, which is more like policy recommendation, I'd like to say that strengthening intellectual property laws, improving infrastructure, and increasing investment in creative industry will help provide a more conducive environment for growth. Looking at, for instance, public-private partnership, there is a growing need for public-private partnership to be able to boost infrastructure, digital literacy, and education in creative sector. I'm happy that in recent times, obviously, some financial institutions have been able to pick up this, where they're able to fund some movies or songs and all of that. But a lot still needs to be done from that angle, right? Where we're looking at policy issues, where more policies are needed to be able to foster collaboration, boost investor confidence amongst a host of others. Because let me be honest with you, right? At the moment, most Nigerians who do well within that sector often rely on sometimes personal savings. Some even rely on family members to be able to sponsor them. And for some of these things, consistency is another thing. If you're able to channel all your funds at one time into some of these things, right, continuity becomes another thing, because you then first need to recoup, you need to re-strategize amongst a host of others. But then when there is a more strategic policy on ground, right, that captures some of these things and is able to deal with some of these issues, right? It encourages more people to be able to thrive within that space and sector. They're able to do well when there's those conducive environment. For instance, a couple of days back now, the internet has been very, very poor, right? If you look at it, sometimes when people even upload their content on social media platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and now Facebook, etc., you'd see that even the quality drops, it reduces at the end of the day. So even the visual appeal amongst the host of others is not really there. So quite a lot still needs to be done from a policy point, from an infrastructure point, amongst the host of others. But this is not to say that we're not growing, we're doing well. It's just that more hands are required to be able to foster that collaboration, to be able to help talent within this sector or this space to be able to grow, thrive. Because if you look at it very well, a large majority of people who benefit from the creative sector are young people or youth. So youth restiveness is reduced, crime is reduced, amongst a host of other things. So yeah, policy, more effective, holistic policies need to be put in place. More government support is still required. And then obviously public-private partnership is also required within this space as well to continue to grow.
Yes, let's look at the place of training and retraining for the next generation. Talking about educating them some more, because we've also come to realize that to a large extent the creative industry seems to be like an all comers affairs. And then when they come, they are not really trained. Some are not even trained in the business of the creatives, because there is also a business to the creative. So most of them get shot in the foot and all of that. Talk to me about the place of training and education if we must harness the potentials of the creative industry.
I agree with you, actually. I totally agree with you, because it's one thing to have a smartphone or a tripod. It's another thing to also be skilled and learned within the space of what exactly you're doing, or even how to navigate the sector. So yes, I agree that a lot of training and retraining is needed. I'm happy to see talents, some of them going to music school, some going through labels, some going into movie training schools. Obviously for the literary space, for instance, there are workshops, symposiums, etc., that people can obviously join, learn one or two things, share knowledge and insight. For where you have issues or challenges, you're able to share to a knowledgeable audience where they are able to help you, guide you, and all of that. So yes, that's also very necessary, because first, no man is an island, nobody knows it all. As you mingle amongst your peers, equals, and even those way ahead of you, you're able to learn, you're able to understand the bottlenecks better, how to navigate those waters, how to do, there's just a lot to learn. Recently, I've heard how some very renowned Nollywood actors or musicians have come up to talk about their mistakes. Right after fame, they went down and nobody even heard about them again and all of that. They've obviously spoken out. So people need to listen more, learn from these people, understand where they failed, or understand where they didn't do well, understand what led to their downfall, where they needed to improve, where they needed to upskill and all of that. Because not all of these things are necessarily taught or learned in a classroom. Some are learned from word of mouth or interacting, networking amongst a host of other channels and medium where people can from. So I'd recommend solidly that we're able to do more within that particular niche, learn from your colleagues. For instance, there's something we do that's called a monthly reading session or critic session, where you bring together renowned authors, writers, the kindergarten ones. They interactively learn from each other. For instance, we're able to discuss issues like brain drain amongst a host of others, or you discuss what's it called again now? A situation where you're stuck in a particular topic or subject and you're unable to make progress and all of that. People are able to share insights. People will tell you how they were able to overcome some of those problems at the end of the day. So yes, I agree. We need to continue to learn. We need to continue to network. We need to continue to seek help and advice and support where the need arises. We shouldn't hide ourselves in our shell and assume that we know it all. So yes, there's a solid need for us to train, learn, reskill, relearn, and all of that. Thank you so much.
Very, very true. And what also readily comes to mind for me when we're talking about the need to get educated, more education, is also the ability to read between the dotted lines when signing contracts. We've seen recent times where artists, are probably shot in the foot or they're shortchanged just because they signed a contract out of desperation or not having understood the real content of their contracts and all of that. I hear there are entertainment lawyers out there today that can guide you in signing a contract. It could be a 6-month contract, it could be a 1-year contract, but it's also important that we begin to maximize the opportunities of experts, even as we go forward in our work as creatives. I'm sure you want to agree with me on that as well, Abraham.
Yes, I do agree with you on that. But sometimes you look at this thing from a more unique point of view. Some of these people have been looking for some of these opportunities for a long time. Some just want a contract. Some just want to put food on their table, right? Some just want to be able to catch this opportunity while it's on ground. It's okay that they're able to spot those opportunities. But like you have rightly said, there is a need for you to be able to understand everything that has been couched in that contract. Some persons have lost their whole work just by signing a contract that is maybe 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years. So all of their lives, effort, and everything to be able to come up with that fantastic masterpiece is lost just because they put pen to paper. So I am one who advocates solidly that before putting pen to paper, you understand every single thing that has been stated there. You get a good hang around it. And because it's very important, at the end of the day, you start hearing of litigation, you start hearing of squabbles, you start hearing of issues, you start hearing somebody feels that he's been shortchanged, is underpaid and all of that. All of those were captured in the contract. Some persons just were never patient enough to study it properly or got expert counsel or expert advice on some of those issues, which are very, very, very critical. So, like you have rightly said, let's look for experts, let's look for lawyers within that space that can help handhold you, advise you, and even critique some of those things that have been couched by those labels. That way, your interest is best protected by so doing at the end of this. So, yes, it's one thing that people should pay more attention to, so we reduce all of these squabbles at the end of the day.
Thank you so very much, Abraham. Before I let you go, I know you mentioned the dearth of infrastructural deficit in Nigeria as part of the challenges that the creative industry is faced with. Well, I'll put it to you also that virtually every industry is faced with that challenge going forward. But then let's be very intentional right now and speak to government how they can indeed come in, to encourage the creative industry.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, government can come in from a lot of ways, right? From supporting with small grants, or even some funding opportunities where creatives can easily access. I think that will help a lot, right? I mean, it's okay that international brands are already taking a cue from this. For instance, Netflix will come up with some amount and say, hey, take this, we like your script, go shoot a movie for us, right, on this, and it's there. So I'm guessing that, or I'm hoping that the Nigerian government or government institutions can take a cue from that, right, to be able to make funds available to creatives. Especially, you can use that for learning tools and equipment or learning aids and all of that, where we're able to talk about maybe our history, our heritage, some of the, things that have happened in the past and all of that. Or you're able to even support talent at the end of the day to be able to go all out, to be able to put in their craft out there, right, at the end of the day. Obviously, government cannot do it alone. So obviously, the private sector or institutions are also enjoyed to support talents within the creative industry. Trust me, with the huge potential that the Nigerian creative sector holds, almost everybody who invests by default should smile home at the end of the day, right? Because we have these things in abundance. These talents are here in excess, if I would put it that way. So a lot of hands are required, a lot of support is required, a lot of collaboration is required. But a lot of those things, obviously, I'd expect that the government to take the lead while others follow or are able to improve on those processes at the end of the day. So yes, that would be me speaking to government to do more, right, within that sector at the end of the day. And then just to also add this, right, in conclusion, to say that Nigeria's creative economy is full of untapped potential, especially with the global influence of our creative industry. However, challenges such as poor infrastructure, IP issues, lack of funding, which we just spoke about, talent migration, which impedes its full realization. So addressing these barriers through better policies, investments, and infrastructure improvements, I believe would unlock the full potentials of Nigeria's creative economy, enabling it to become a key driver of economic growth and even cultural export at the end of the day. So the advantage is enormous, the return is huge, but just a lot still needs to be done.
Yes, for a sector that reports has it that still has the potential of creating about 2.5 million more jobs in the year 2025, and then a projection of about $100 billion contribution to GDP by 2030. It is indeed a sector that demands all the right attention from government and the private sector. Abraham Onoja, thank you so very much for speaking with us on the show today.